Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and my name is Wyatt. Welcome to the Open Mic. And so today it's a little bit later because I went for a nap because I'm feeling very tired. Wait, I adjust my mic. Yeah, so I thought that I might not have enough brain power to process the conversations, which is why I only just started this now. Okay, so just do some setup first. I already did the setup, just that just wanted to adjust a bit more, so I feel more authentic. Okay, hi everyone. Okay, I'm just gonna say hi everyone in the comments also. Hi everybody. Okay, so hi Adriano. Hi Relentless. Hi okay, Hi Emmanuel. Hi Cheese Puff. Hi Vaughn. Hi Zukovac. Textured Fiber 93. Who is a multiple hero of DPA War channel holder. Hi Acting Sane. Hi Bor. Gazvoda. Hi Aki. Hi Clan Adventures. Hi Core. Hi Blame. I Ocean. Hi Joseph. Mr. Joseph. Hi Machin. Hi NGS. And wait. I need to close my door. Wait. Okay, cool. And hi Prakash. Hi Meat and Tater. Wahiyat meaning in Hindi, take it lightly. I don't know what is Wahiyat in Hindi. What's the meaning of Wahiyat in Hindi? Hi Robert. Hi Eddie. Hi Emotional. Demak. Hi Wonder Weji. Hi Harry. Fukan. Levan. Anton. Daniel. NGS. Musa. Is not 42. Fukan. Malush. Is Hawkeye. Hi Saifio. Oni. Hamza. Mummy. Hi, Mummy from Texas. Oh, I have a mother in Texas now. And hi, Terra Firma. Hi, Emmanuel Gamer again. So cool. So I hided everybody as much as I can now. So okay, wait. I need to share my thingy everywhere first. So I need to share this stream everywhere first. Where else should I share this? Facebook, and yeah. And now I'm going to put the join link so that you all can join. So as you last week I forgot, or rather I don't feel like it. I'm a bit lazy to actually end the stream on the main channel. So I just want to highlight that on the main channel, the Defense Politics Asia channel. How do you know is that the logo is black color? The logo of the channel is black. The stream will end maybe 1 hour, 1.5 hour into the open mic. So if you want to see the full open mic, go to the DPA IRL channel. So give me a moment. Okay. And then have I said Hamza? Hi Hamza again. Hi Victor. Hi Lev. Hi Tom Johnston. Well, mommy is so happy to be to be off today to see. So yeah. Well, you're gonna work on Sundays. What is the reliability of 600 Ukrainian soldiers killed where? Sorry, killed where? I do not know. So my last known information of the Ukraine war is from the last SIRAP that I announced, then which I published. After that, I don't know yet because I haven't even looked into any of the sources. So now I need to drop the invite link. Okay, I'm gonna write this one first. The main channel, to join the open mic, please go to the stream over at DPA IRL. And then what else do I need to tell you guys to do? Remember to subscribe. I should just copy and paste this kind of thing like every week. Just copy and paste, right? Why do I have to like think every week? Okay, so remember to subscribe. Press the like button. Oh no! I should tell you to insert. To force insert your comment into the stream. Use the super chat. Okay. That I pin this message on the main channel. Then to the then the DPA IRL channel I need to change to join the open mic. Invite link, and then where's the invite link? Invite link, copy, invite link. Okay, the invite link is now on. It's in DPA IRL channel pin message. So a few things. On the screen at most there can be 10 people. That's the limitation of the platform. But of course, anything more than 10, I think is also a bit too much of a coffee shop. And also there will be 2 slots in the backstage, which someone is already in the backstage. You guys can guess who. One of the most regular person in the open mic. Okay, let me. Okay, I'm good. Okay, you can drop him in now. Pop. Hello. You're muted.
I said hello, everyone. Come on, get on the open mic or share it out so we can get people watching reality.
Okay, so let me set up my earpiece. Okay, I think. All right, so Von has been waiting for the open mic.
No. Oh.
Is there still feedback? Setting audio.
Where's Alan?
Cool. Got it. No idea, man. Where's Alan? I think he got arrested by SBU or something, or yeah. by the feds. What? You're Russian?
Yeah. They found out. Belarus, close enough.
Or his local administration or councilman or whatever, go to his house. Where is your Ukrainian flag? No Ukrainian flag.
No, okay, I wanted to bring up the whole strike on Makiva and the Russians that got killed, and everybody's talking about how it's done. And I think what they're doing is we know now that they're obviously limited with how many of the guided HIMARS rockets they can get. They're getting smaller amounts of those, and those are obviously going to be kept for prime targets because they're guided and they can pretty much guarantee a hit on something. And I'm almost thinking, I've seen videos of like the Russians with the Mistra, and they're usually only operating in 2 vehicles, and they got an ammo truck and a fuel truck. And those guys can fire the Krasnople guided 155 munition or 152. And it got me to thinking that, if you think about the electronic warfare on the Russian side, and then you look at the warfare on, the electronic warfare platforms that are available to the Ukrainians from, let's just use NATO as a catch-all. And I'll just wait. I'm not going to say too much. I want to wait till some more people get on. But I kind of have a theory about how this is going down, and I think the Russians are probably doing a lot more of it than the Ukrainians are, but we just don't hear about it because it's an everyday thing for them.
Yeah. Hi, Marco.
Hi, man.
All right.
I follow you on 1st March this year.
Oh, that's a long time. Yeah.
Long. My English is a little bad. Hi, Petrus, Ryan.
Hey, what's up?
I am for Serbia, Belgrade, and
interesting times for you.
Yeah, it's interesting time. Good time.
I'm sure you got some. Hey, have you seen those summer and crossbow guys walking around anywhere?
No.
I've heard that the Wagner guys are somewhere in, I think it's Mitrovica. Supposedly there's a cultural exchange going on between Wagner and the Serbian cultural people.
I heard in Wagner group 200 people, Serbs, come and join in Wagner group. But we have people who go in Donetsk 2014 and 2015 volunteers to fight in Ukraine, against Ukraine, in the rebels.
So they go over there to fight on the separatist side, basically?
Yes. Famous fighter is Dan Beric, who volunteered in 2014, go in Donetsk Republic to fight, and he fight today.
Marco, are you slapping the table?
Say what?
Or hitting it with a pen? Because there was like a slapping sound.
Yes. Sorry, I'm nervous. This is my first chat in English.
You're good, man. You're good.
It's okay. You'll get used to it.
I watch open microphone full time. I know everyone how you thinks. Yeah. I recommended to follow Beric. He was he own a YouTube channel, and he report for Frontline.
Yeah.
He been
Hi everybody.
He been in Kharkiv, Kiev, Kherson. He been wounded.
Do they get do the volunteers that go over there to fight with the DPR or Russian volunteer, I guess, if they volunteer with the Russian forces somehow, do they get decent care when they get injured? Or are they kind of on their own, get better, and then come back if they want?
He talk, this is okay. This is okay.
So if they get hurt, they get taken care of, and if they can fight again, they'll go back if they want.
Yes. He famous in Russia. He go in Duma. He go in FSB.
He's one of those guys that they like to get to The Hague, probably.
He's not.
Well, you know what I mean. He goes around and does things for what he thinks are a good cause, but other people wouldn't think it's a good cause, so they'd want to arrest him. I mean, I think that's one reason why a lot of those guys you see in the videos are always masked up, because eventually the war is going to be over and they're going to move on with their lives, and they don't want to be, oh, you're that guy from such and such, in Kherson, I saw your video, they want to arrest them and stuff like that. So I imagine that's why a lot of those guys keep their identities concealed, because you probably can't travel around Europe if they think you're in Wagner or if you were a volunteer for some foreign legion. I'm sure they'd love to snag you up.
He said 3 months ago, people from Europe come in Moscow, fight, to join the Russian army to fight in Ukraine. It's volunteer, but Russian government gives passport for that guys who fight with Russia. Don't matter you are American or or Englishman, or French or German. Where to go fight with Russia, you get passport Russia and your family if you want, and you stay in Russia and you get paid and you got everything you need. This is Hito, and I don't know what real state. no state, real stuff. I'm not sure.
Yeah, if you like a couple weeks back, we were talking about, the PTSD stuff, and I mentioned somebody I know, and I'm pretty sure that person has gotten back into Ukraine now, because I can't get a hold of them anyway, and I've done some snooping around. They've gone completely dark, and my only concern is it's like, I know he wants to go back there, but it's like, dude, you're going back at the worst possible time, because I would imagine that's a guaranteed trip to the front, and especially the Bakhmut area, because he would be in a foreign legion. So hopefully it works out for him. Hopefully I can see him again someday or hear from him again, but I'm pretty sure that's where he ended up, because based on trying to get a hold of him, and everything's gone. Like, he's not even there anymore.
War is hell.
Huh?
War, magic war is hell.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's in the UK, and he's been over there once before, and then this last time he was recruiting people and getting ready to go back again, and now he's disappeared, so I'm assuming that happened. I don't want to say a whole lot because I don't want to put him at risk, but I mean, I'm sure they know he's there because he's a foreigner, and hopefully, like I said, he stays safe and doesn't end up there, because I figure if you go to the Bakhmut, it's pretty much a death sentence. I mean, you're either going to end up dead or wounded, and it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of wounded. And even if you are, I mean, that only works if you get pulled off the battlefield. It doesn't look like that's happening either.
This is the war of the artillery.
Yeah,
artillery, I mean, got the war.
That's one thing that I don't think people realize when you look at some of those areas. I mean, there's God knows how many men that are just vaporized. They're never even going to know what happened to them. I mean, how many of the missing are just obliterated or buried in those bunkers and tunnels? Because, they work good to protect them, but I've seen plenty of videos where they target the entrances and stuff and smoke them out. And sometimes they come out, sometimes they don't. But, I mean, are they actually going to go around and dig out all these guys and bury them or figure out what happened to them? Probably not. I mean, not to be gross, but look at some of the shit going on around some of those pig farms. All the dead bodies that were left behind. I mean, those guys aren't ever going to get any kind of recognition.
I think that 80% or something like that is the death rate for of artillery. So 80% of all the deaths are caused by artillery. So that's
believable. I mean, when you look at those pictures of some of those areas, it's like there's got to be like thousands of craters of every size, and it's like there's no way. I mean, if there was any sizable unit there, I mean, how many of those guys are just gone?
I think it's normal. In most wars, I think artillery usually causes the most kills. I think in most of the wars, since artillery don't become very popular.
Yeah, it works.
You hit enemy. Well, you hit the enemy with respect with artillery. This is the war.
I think that's the difference between I think that's why USA in Afghanistan, right? They don't really or Iraq, they don't really experience the real war. Like, they have no total domination over the entire war space, and end up when they go to Ukraine, as part of the private military contractors or foreign legion, they got surprised by the intensity of the war. Like you can just be in the rear, far away from the front, and just get hit for no reason. I think that was the one. I think the early war, the one that the missile strike on the Lviv, the training center, the NATO training center in Lviv. That was a shocker for so many of them, and they just quit. So many of them just quit.
Yeah, I mean, because you think about it, most of the time they were exposed to maybe some rockets, some mortars, and that was probably about it. And then now it's like you said, you're 200 miles behind the front line, and here comes a fucking cruise missile, and good night.
My friend was on a work trip in Ukraine last month, I think so. he was in Mariupol and in this area. He was in. He works on a railroad, so he worked on some project there, and he said to me that the life is normal in these areas. So the real problem is if you live around 10 kilometers from the front line. Anything that's more is good. So the life seems normal here. That's what he said. So
I would think that anything on the eastern side of the Dnieper is probably where the majority of the problems are. And then there's certain cities that are getting hit that might have problems, where there's targets. But, like I said, the West has not really gotten hit like the East has, and all the targets have along the, line of contact. I mean, that seems legit that they would focus on trying to keep the part of, the power on in the part of the country that's not really getting hit as hard. But I would assume, once you hit the, Kyiv being an exception because it's on the river and they obviously going to have problems, and probably Zaporizhzhia and what's the other big city down there? Not Donetsk, but the next one out from it. Anything along there, I would assume is having problems. But like you said, if you're way out in the middle towards Poland, you're probably, air raid sirens maybe, but probably not seeing a whole lot of action.
He was on the Russian side. He was in Mariupol. He was there, so he was on the Russian side, and he said to me that 10 kilometers from the front line, there's a problem in this area, but everything else seems normal. So this was really interesting. So I thought that
does he ever say? Oh, sorry. Has he ever talked about troop concentrations in the West? I don't want to get anybody in trouble or anything. I'm just, because we've talked about that before, because it would seem like with all the forces in Belarus, they've got to keep something back just in case. But at the same time, they've got to try and stop the Russians in the East. So it's like, I wonder, we've been wondering like how many troops are being held back in the western part of Ukraine just in case.
And, he was on working trip, so he wasn't in the area of a fight. So
so if he didn't see it,
he didn't see it. So it's really interesting. He said to me that he saw some military vehicles, but other than that, no fighting. So it's usually the interesting thing is why are the bridges over Dnieper still standing? This is really interesting to me.
My biggest thing is I think that the Russians don't want to blow up stuff they might want to use later. That's the only thing I can think of is, they're trying to get what they can get without destroying everything. And if they can save a bridge and use it, then great. But I think they're trying to get it on the cheap.
But if, for example, Ukraine retreats from the east side of Dnieper, they will blow up the bridges anyway. So there is this. Even if Russia managed to push Ukraine to the Dnieper River, Ukraine will blow up those bridges. So,
and you think, and see that, and you say that, and it makes sense. And you'd think, well, why wouldn't they blow up the bridges now? Just cut off the Ukrainian supplies.
Yes,
because exactly. Like you said, exactly what's going to happen if they have to cross them going the other way. They're blowing them as they leave, guaranteed.
Yes.
So why wouldn't the Russians take them out? That's the only thing I can come up with is they're going to try and keep up what they can so they don't have to fix it. But it seems to me, like you said, they would blow them up.
It would be because, exactly as the Surovikin say, that the whole operation is just to, take out the Ukrainian military. So there's no reason to blow up the bridges because you need them to come. Because there's a strategic problem with blowing up the bridges as well. Because if you can blow up the bridges, you can stop the resupply from coming. But it doesn't stop the Ukrainians from continuing to build up a military force on the western side. And the Russians do not have the means to cross the Dnieper easily. And so it's like, so what if you capture the entire eastern part of Dnieper River, but you cannot take out the Ukrainian military and they continue to pose a threat. So it might as well just let them come and then cause everyone to suffer unacceptable kills and damage and casualties to the point where the war can end in that way. Perhaps that's the thing.
Yeah, that's a logical thing. Yes.
Yeah, because you can imagine, let's say you blow up the bridges, the resupply cannot come. Of course, the troops on the eastern side would just be like taken out. But then once you push the Dnieper River, you can't cross it. Then you are also screwed. You know, for the Russian side, they also like, oh no, now we are going to have a stalemate.
Yeah, we sit around
or Belarus. Belarus is also the possibility. So attack from Belarus from high.
Yeah, I think that's one good thing about when we sit around and talk. It's like it's probably the same thing going on in the staff meetings and stuff, because it's like, well, why don't we do this? If we do this, it'll mean this. And then the other guy's like, well, if you do that now, then we won't get these guys to come in and kill them like we want. You know, I mean, there's probably, we're basically probably doing the same thing they're doing. It's like, this is a good idea. The other guy's like, no, it's not. And then we're looking at like, well, why wouldn't they do that? That makes the most sense. That's what anyone else would do. And then it's like, well, they're not doing it because of this. We don't really know. But yeah, I mean, I imagine it's the same thing. There's so many, I guess you could, for lack of a better word, there's so many opportunities on the table. They have to really pick and choose what they want to do and look at it, 5-10 steps ahead as far as, whereas we're probably just looking at like, oh, why didn't they take this bridge and move this way? And, that river's, crossable here, it's like we're trying to minimize it, whereas they're looking at probably the big picture. And, of course they've got all the information. We don't. We're just getting what, like everyone says, what they want us to see. And then we have to try and base our information off of that.
Yes. Around those bridges also, like on the dams, so you can't really blow them up, because if you blow them up, you're going to flood the whole Dnieper. You're going to destroy the nuclear power plant also.
Yeah, that's one thing I wonder about. I think, would Ukraine blow the dams, the hydroelectric dams? Would they do something to damage the plant, or is that the one thing they wouldn't do? I mean, to me, it seems like they would, just because they'd be desperate, and if they're going to lose, they're going to lash out. But then again, maybe if other people are in the chain of command say, nah, this is over with, why end on a bad note or make it worse for us, or expose themselves to like crimes against humanity and stuff like that. But I wonder about that too, because it seems like the bridges would be the one thing you wouldn't touch, or the dams would be the one thing you didn't touch, because you would hurt people on both sides. And then the expense of repairing them either way would also be something that would make them not want to blow them up. But I don't know, desperate times, they'd probably do whatever they got to do and they were shelling the nuclear power plant before, so maybe they don't give a shit about flooding it.
Because in the last open mic, we had some discussion about the NATO strategy, right? It's like NATO is never meant to fight the Soviet forces head on. They're supposed to retreat and hit. They have to be retreating, doing strategic retreats to pull the Soviets while they do as much damage as they can. And I think that maybe the Russians are afraid that that will be exactly what the Ukrainians will do should they blow up the bridges and everything. So yeah, I thought that might be a thing. Hi, Christian.
Hello. I'm just wondering. I know that Božo is from Slovenia. Bor, where are you from?
How do you know that? I'm from Kran, but yes.
Okay.
Bor is also from Slovenia?
Yes.
And we're like 3 people from Slovenia. That's country.
Okay, so now it's time to start the new official language here is Slovenian. Okay.
Yeah, you all can start the whole open mic in Slovenian, and I was like, I can't understand the thing. So how come so many Slovenians in following? Like, what is the interest?
Yeah, it's
why
really
is it
strange.
so?
I think there's one more guy that's from Slovenia. So there's like 4 guys from a country
that's a huge percentage, right?
People. Yeah.
There's a huge percentage, as compared to the kind of viewers that I have on the main on the DPA channel. I don't remember having a huge percentage. Maybe I should go and check again.
There are 2 million Slovenian people, so to have 4 on your open mic is good.
Singapore have 3 times your population. Singapore has 6 million.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Sunday, everyone. I just want to say hi real quick, make sure everybody's good.
Yeah.
How long are you gonna stream today? Is it a regular 5-hour stream?
What do you mean by regular?
I'm just curious because it's halftime right now for my game. We're in, so we'll get in the playoffs. So
halftime is how long? How long?
About 15 minutes. So I just wanted to pop in real quick, say what's up to everybody in the panel, and then pop out. I just wanted to see how long you guys are going to be streaming today.
Another 5 seconds, then I will be closing the stream. I don't know. My plan is always 3 hours, but it always overshot because the conversation is going on. I don't want to just end it abruptly, especially when we have very good conversations. I don't want to just stop it.
No, I get it. I just wanted to ask. It's when we're in. Sorry for detracting from the conversation, fellas. I just wanted to pop in, say hi. Why? I always love the show. Hey, real quick question. I saw a video from another YouTuber that said that apparently there was Zelensky broke a Christmas truce that the Russians and the Ukrainians had agreed upon. Is that true?
I don't think they ever even had a truce. The Russians proposed it. They never enacted it because the Ukrainians never accepted it.
Right, but they're both sides are Orthodox Christian, and I believe that their Christmas is celebrated on the 5th or the 6th, I think. And I think that's what they were talking about.
Yeah, it was like the 6th to the 7th, and I think the Ukrainians never accepted it, so they just never did it. And then some stuff happened, I guess.
I know the story. Apparently, leader of Russian Orthodox Church proposed it to Putin, and Putin accepted this, but it was never a deal between Ukraine and Russia. So only Russians did only defensive operations, while Ukrainians just continued normally.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I just wanted to pop in and say hi to y'all. Happy Sunday to everybody. Depending on my mood, you'll know how the game turned out. I'll see y'all in about an hour and a half. Peace.
Okay. Good luck to your game. Yeah, 1.5 hours. We'll be around. We'll still be around. Bye. Yeah. Strong dedication to the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. He loved his armored rugby. So just now we have a super chat. I didn't show yet. So he was talking about Mexico, capturing Chapo's son. Ask us what do we think? Because Biden is supposed to visit, and then the to capture the son of the mafia is like, and I think this mafia is the most powerful mafia at the moment in Mexico, so it's a big thing. And I did a video on this. Any opinions?
I did hear a rumor. I did.
It's always go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
It's always interesting to me that these I guess cartel leaders and stuff are seen by so many people as heroes in Mexico and these kind of countries. I'm not sure why. I'm not as familiar about it, but it's interesting to me because apparently there are riots and stuff like that.
Well, I did see an article with it regards to like a lot of the cartels. I won't say all of them, but I think it's like it's the Sinaloa cartel, which is one of the biggest. I think it is the biggest, and then they've absorbed a lot of them. Which one of them was the Zeta cartel. It had something else, but it was like the Zeta something, and they were like mostly made up of like prior Mexican special forces who decided just to go work for the cartels or be a cartel. And a lot of what they did was hearts and minds. Like they'd go through the city and give out food and help people out and stuff like that. So they would also enforce the law locally and kind of keep the peace, in a weird way. It's like, yeah, we're criminals, but we're going to keep this area safe because this is our area. But we are going to fight these other guys over here, and we probably are going to fight the Mexican army when they come in. And I guess most people are pretty much resigned to that fact one way or the other. They're either laying low, trying not to get killed, or they're part of the cartel. Because, you can't really be openly with the government because those guys will go after you. So I guess most people are probably just going along to get along and try not to get involved. But they practice a lot of like military type stuff as far as going out and, I guess you could say it's a psychological operation. They feed people and give out gifts and stuff and win over their people locally so that those people, they call on the phone and say, hey, there's a black SUVs coming down the road, and tip somebody off. It's like they build it, they buy that loyalty. And they say, I think the Sigonella has 100,000 members, and obviously those aren't all guys shooting. That's all their runners, probably accountants and everything else. But that's a pretty sizable organization, and they're all vying for control. And then there's some of them that are allied against other ones. And then probably on a common sense, they all are against the government. So I'm sure it's easy for them to put aside their differences to go fight the Mexican army or whoever they decide to fight. But, as far as turf goes, that's always going to happen. But I just looked at the list of the Sigonella and all their allies and affiliates, and it's they must have 75 to 100 affiliate cartels and organizations up underneath the whole umbrella of their organization. So they're probably the biggest and most organized. And I think with the Zetas in there, that gives them a military operation. There's even stories they have training camps that they train people to become guerrilla fighters. There's even stories that American former special forces have gone down there and gotten paid to train. I've even heard stories of, it's probably been about 10 years now, but they said that there's buildings down there that had the Palestinian flag painted on them, like there might have been training camps down there. And that's something that people worry about, is the cartels maybe get in bed with some of the terrorist organizations and then using that as a way to get into the country and being able to commit terrorist attacks. But I mean, and I've also heard, you see how the West has a lot of forest fires every year. There's been stories that the cartels will start those fires because they know the government, our U.S. government, will order its employees out of the area because it's not safe. So once that area is cleared of park rangers or whatever, and the people are evacuated out, then it's an open channel for them to run through those areas, and they're not worried about it. There's stories about commercial size operations out in the high Sierras that are surrounded with electronic surveillance and armed guards on site. The Chinese are supposedly starting to do a lot of growing in California, and they're smart because they only use Chinese. They don't have any locals. It's when they get busted, they find smuggled Chinese laborers who work at the farms, and they're run by Chinese. I think there's even Romania or Bulgaria mafia starting to come up in there, and the cartels. So you've got some pretty, and if you think about it, if it's Bulgaria or Romania, there's Europe, there's a tie where those cartels might have access to some of that NATO equipment that's going missing. And, they do have RPGs, they have, heavy machine guns, and, they can get all kinds of small arms. And you've seen over the years, they build submarines. I think when the Soviet Union collapsed, there was a lot of stories about how they were using a lot of ex-Soviet aircraft. And there was even pictures of them. They weren't even painting them. There's a plane sitting down on a runway, an AN-24 with the red star still on it, and it's smuggling drugs. It's probably not flying into the States, but, planes like that are probably ferrying that stuff from, Colombia back up into Panama, and then it's probably put on private planes from there. But, I mean, they have the resources, and that's, any cartel, the Colombian cartels are powerful, obviously, and then the Mexican cartels are powerful. So, there's a lot of money. There's a lot of access to weapons. There's a lot of access to talent if they want it. Everyone's got a price, obviously. And the only thing they really don't have is artillery and aircraft. They do have aircraft, but nothing they can really use to fight people with. But they could definitely ferry troops around, if you want to say that. They could ferry shooters around.
It wouldn't make sense to have aircraft and that kind of military equipment anyways, because you're not going to beat the army in a large-scale engagement anyways. So
yeah, and they've been using drones for a long time. They use drones to scout the border. They have guys with cell phones. They'll send a huge group of refugees to one point to draw the resources there. Same thing, then that opens a channel somewhere else, and that's where they'll run the drugs through. And they've caught guys going across the border that were completely decked out. I've heard them say, for all intents and purposes, they look like they were Mexican military soldiers, and they crossed the border with backpacks, and they don't get engaged because, the Border Patrol guys, they might have an AR-15 more than likely. but they got 2 handguns, maybe a shotgun and a rifle, and these guys are coming across in like squad size elements, fully armed with backpacks. I mean, who knows what they're carrying? I mean, I'm just surprised at this point they haven't smuggled off heavier stuff, but I think the reasons the cartels haven't allowed themselves to be used for a terrorist conduit is because they don't want to bring the heat on them. Because if it's, you know, if the United States is right next door and you're the guy that's funneling dudes in, they're going to pound your ass because you're right there. I mean, we don't have to do nothing. We could just literally put 777s on the border and HIMARS on the border and build a wall, and we can, you know, dominate, you know, 100 miles into the border of Mexico. Nothing walks, nothing goes towards the border. Plus we have UAVs, aircraft, we have blimps, surveillance blimps. I mean, they don't want that kind of heat brought on them. So I think that's one reason why you won't see that. But that doesn't mean there won't be battles along the border between the cartels and, you know, American government troops or forces. I don't know if the military, they want to get the military down there. You could justify it, but everyone's afraid to do what they have to do to fight, you know, fentanyl and stuff. I mean,
just my understanding was that a lot of the Mexican military guys, after they left the service, they joined the mafia.
Yeah, it's good money.
They are paid better. Even those maybe regular soldiers can also quit the military because they are being paid better or something. No, so they join the mafia because I think Mexican salary for the soldiers maybe not that high, and which means that the mafias are actually, you know, very highly trained. Everyone's gone. Boy, your mic is off, you know.
Yes, I know.
So, talk about Slovenia.
I don't really know about this Mexico war. I'm not. I'm not really. It's
I was in Belgrade on the New Year's Eve, and they have a shit ton of Russian propaganda there. Z flags everywhere, and Russia and Serbia together. So I think they're pro-Russia there mostly.
Yes, I get.
I got to head out for a minute. I'll be back in a few. Y'all have fun.
Okay.
See you. Oh, it's
in
just
Serbia, they're pro-Russia because NATO bombed them in 91 or some.
Yes, Serbia is pro-Russia. Mostly, like 90% of Serbia is pro-Russia. Slovenia and Croatia, I think, like 60, 70, or pro-Russia. It's half-half, I guess, 50-50. There are pro-Ukrainian and people in Slovenia, and there are pro-Russian. So,
does it cause social unrest? In your country?
Not really.
Z signs, and then you see Ukrainian flags. So it's not like in Serbia when you see only Z and V and Russian tanks and shit like that.
I wonder it caused fights, between people. Because we heard fights, right? Between the Russians and the Ukrainians in the western part of Europe. Do anyone fight over, like literally just fight each other?
I didn't see no one wear the Z flags because I think that you're like promoting war and tension, so you don't want to do that. Just asking for trouble if you do that.
We have a conflict going in Serbia and Kosovo, so we will see what will happen there. But
yeah, so far not much things, because it's like everybody is telling me that nothing will happen because they gone through it so many times.
Yes. We will see. Serbia and Russia are really good allies, so I think that Russia's goal is to have some kind of connection to Serbia, or via Hungary, or maybe like Montenegro from the sea. But I think that long-term goals for Russia is to have Hungary on their side, so they can they can support Serbia's military, and they can support them. Yes.
I think they blocked the pipeline that gave gas to Serbia from Russia. So Serbia is now building a pipeline to Hungary to get more gas. I think from Russia. They can't even get the gas.
Yeah, I think now Serbia is like totally encircled, right? I don't think they can reach it.
Yes. But there's something interesting because there is an area of Ukraine that has a lot of Hungarian people. So there is I don't know what it's called, but there's an interesting thing because I think if Ukraine collapses and totally collapses and joins Russia or something like that, which we will see what will happen, but there could be a possibility that Russia gives it area to Hungary in exchange for from Hungary exiting NATO. So I think that's a possibility. Because
if you have the ruler of Hungary, would you exchange?
I mean, if I'm Orban, I think that's interesting. Interesting thing. Yes, maybe.
Because it's quite expensive, right? To quit NATO and the connection to the West just for a small piece of land in Ukraine.
I mean, it's not that small. It's not that small, but on the other hand, you get connections to Russia. So, yes, I think that
cheap gas,
cheap gas, yes, cheap food, yes,
What,
fertilizer.
What part of Ukraine is where the Hungarian population is?
This is western. Yes, something like that. The Carpathia, yes. It's like.
Is it like the southwestern part or northwestern part?
It's where the mountains are, I think, on the southwestern part. Yeah.
Okay.
This is Carpathy Mountains are there, so behind.
Yeah, but even then, they won't really directly be able to be connected to Russia because there's still Romania in between.
I don't think so. If Serbia is connected to Ukraine via Hungary, so if Hungary exit NATO, Russia could then in this scenario could have the connection to Serbia.
I think NGS make a very good point. Like if you're Russia, you want your Hungary to be in NATO. Is that you have Turkey inside NATO, then you can mess things up inside, right?
Yes.
What do you think? So before joining this chat, I was reading about John, the Stoltenberg, that the NATO guy, the chief. He said that it's about time Turkey needs to finally step up and get Sweden into NATO. How long do you think Turkey can actually prolong this, if they even can?
I mean,
Morton, your mic has no sound. But Morton, your mic has no sound. You need to reconnect your mic. Sorry, Aki, what were you saying? Sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, no. My question is that how long do you guys think that Turkey can actually prolong Sweden and Finland's accession? And will
forever,
they even
accept? It's forever, man. Because Turkey is the second most powerful military now in NATO, or at least by numbers. So the entire concept of pinning Russia back depends a lot on Turkey, because Turkey is the front line. And if Turkey don't play ball, then the entire NATO will become weakened by a lot. So Turkey is a bit like Ukraine, is very heavily, there's a lot of troops. They're talking about like, I think Turkey, I haven't went and searched how much troops Turkey have, but I know it's quite significant. So if you remove the entire force, that is like removing entire Ukraine from USSR. So then it's like you can see how long Ukraine can fight Russia now. It's quite significant actually to have them out of the alliance.
There's also the elections coming for Erdogan, so they may just try to remove him.
He will always win, don't worry. Somehow. I mean, he can't even die now with the coup and everything, and then so many of his detractors has been removed. So I think it's very hard for him to lose the election. But that's just my thinking. Hi, Raf. Hi, coping things. Coping things, you're mute. Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
Someone say you look like One Punch Man.
I look like One Punch Man. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm barely aware of what that actually is. That cartoon. But okay, cool. That means I look handsome, I guess. I was just wondering. As far as I know, like no one has ever gone out of NATO, and like, but are anyone here familiar with the procedure for getting out? I know I should actually know this because I tend to be advocating for like a regional defense arrangement for Norway, but I find my ignorance dumbfounding.
I watched a video of it. Apparently, there's no mechanism to remove a country, but there's like a special clause which basically states that if you uphold the Western democratic values, you stay in the country. Once you lose your way, like once you become a monarchy or something like that, you can be removed. So if they really want to, they can technically remove Turkey, but there is no set mechanism.
Okay, because that was so vaguely termed. I mean, there's like monarchy. Norway is a constitutional monarchy, but Britain is also a constitutional monarchy. But so that kind of like doesn't seem to be meaning anything. You could say, oh well, but if your monarch has a lot of influence, well, Queen Elizabeth had a fair amount of influence. I think it's unarguable. So that's like Turkey. Like, are you holding democratic principles? Like, what is the definition? What makes democratic?
Yeah.
I think France left NATO. I think that France left NATO. So there is a possibility to leave.
All right, during the Gauls era, the so-called Gaullism.
I think this was in 1966 or like something like that. So
yeah, no, now that you mention it, I recall there was something with it's in essence what the Gaul was arguing for would be the European NATO, really, just without the US, really. Yo, Vlad.
Yes.
Hey, Vlad, would you know? Hey, Vlad, do you know much about what does it take for a NATO member to exit?
Is there such an exit? I think
exactly. Right.
There's never been an exit of a NATO country before.
Well,
or am I wrong?
I think
France left. So.
But did they actually leave? Because as far as I understand, if I might misremember here, but as far as I recall, it was more that they didn't like they were on temporary hold or something. Like they weren't.
I think they left for a couple of years and then they joined back. But they were still allies. But I think that they left and then they joined again. So
can a country actually leave NATO, or is there like a proposal or something?
I don't know.
I googled it.
Aki, you're muted.
I think to leave, it should be pretty straightforward. You just need like your parliament to ratify that. Oh, hey, we want to leave. But I'm talking about if other members want to remove you, that there's no set procedure for that. But if you want to leave, it should be pretty easy. Like it's your own country's defense. If you don't want to be part of an alliance, you can just probably just be like, hey, I don't want to be a part, and that's it.
I see it also on Wikipedia. There's like Article 13. If you want to leave, you just need to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some procedure to this, but I think it's very that simple. Hey guys, you want some funny things? I found it on my refrigerator today. You know what it is? So my dad went like 10 years ago. It's Soledar. Because everyone is talking about Soledar now. Fuck it.
This is a salt mine.
It's a salt mine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, unfortunately, you know the drama. It was like 2 or 3 months ago. Yes. It was like, I think, one of the buildings was hit by Russian artillery, unfortunately. So I find it funny.
No, it's Russian salt mine.
Yeah. So they demolish all these beautiful places, like in the Donbass, but yeah, it's the reality of war.
Mm-hmm.
I found this funny. So like everyone's talking about Soledar, and I'm like, oh, I take some food out and I see Soledar.
That's a literally food for eating, the salt for eating.
Yeah.
Isn't Ukraine holding those salt mines right now?
No,
it's
it's
been
been
was a salt mine.
What? I didn't hear.
I didn't realize it's food salt. That's so weird. Why would you have salt in that kind of place? We are so quiet. We have 8 people, but we have nothing to talk about.
Yeah, I don't want to be.
What's the topic for today?
The topic for today. Soledar, no. How long do you guys think Soledar can last?
2 weeks.
Do I have a lot of white noise though, or is it?
Yeah, there's a white noise.
Is it still there?
Yeah. Yes, it's there.
It
You
all
have a horrible
depends.
headset.
It all depends.
Depends if
on
the
the-
Russians want to withdraw. I'm sorry.
It all depends
see
on the
what-
Russians, I think.
Go ahead.
Like Russians could storm it today, but probably they're just trying to fully encircle it and then finish it off.
Morten, you need to turn off your speaker. Do you have a headphone, Morten?
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
You need to get a
Morten,
headphone.
I need to get.
You got the earphone already? Yeah, we can hear you. Cool.
Okay. So I'm Morten from Norway.
My audio is okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's my
Morten
audio.
is from Norway. Yeah, your audio is awesome.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to give you a North European perspective on the conflict. I'm a little bit more pro-Ukrainian than you other guys, I think.
Good. I like it.
So yeah, I saw that in the last live that you were looking for someone. So yeah.
So what do you think about the situation in Soledar, or Bakhmut? Because it's not looking good for the Ukrainians right at the moment.
No, in Bakhmut, well, I feel that it's an important city for both parts. Like, it's been so much prestige in it that I feel like nobody can lose. But I don't see the great. Well, if Russia takes it, I don't see where do they go next. I can't see that they use so much forces and so much troops put into one place. I think they could use that forces better on something else. Yeah.
Because it's going to be on both sides as well. So if the Russians are putting so much troops into trying to capture Bakhmut and Soledar, the Ukrainians are also doing the same thing, trying to prevent the Russians from capturing it. So if not, then it would have already fallen. So because from what I saw, mostly pro-Russian sources, because Ukrainian sources do not talk about deployments. The pro-Russian sources are reporting so much redeployments from Zaporizhia, from the Kherson. Those troops from the Kherson offensive, they're all drawn to the Bakhmut region mostly. So it's not just a bit weird that the Russians are just attacking Bakhmut, but the Ukrainians are also doing a lot to prevent the fall of Bakhmut.
Yeah, and there's also a little bit discussion about how many troops are losses on the both sides. And from the Ukraine, or from my perspective, what I'm seeing, it's like the Russians have to lose more troops because they're storming these defended positions. Well, they use artillery a lot, but not so precise artillery. So, yeah, I think the Russians are losing more. So why do you think the Ukrainians are losing more? When you're attacking a deeply defended position that's entrenched, I can't see that the Ukrainians should lose more in this.
Well, I think
a picture from
that Russian advantage in artillery kind of evens it out. I mean, maybe they're losing slightly more, who knows? But I mean, obviously, if Russians didn't rely on artillery a lot, they would just storm all the towns. But they're doing it slowly because artillery works really well, I guess.
Well, I can't see that the artillery is working that well, if I'm completely honest. well, Excalibur's artillery work well. If not, they're just leveling everything. They're leveling everything, but you still can't kill people if they're underground in bunkers. The artillery can't do that.
Yeah, of course. At the end of the day, you have to storm the position, but apparently there are 60,000 Ukrainian troops in Bakhmut, so there is a large concentration of forces. Therefore, the present artillery is still an option. At some point, when these forces are going to be used to a certain extent, I guess that's when the full storming of Bakhmut is going to start.
I think that refers to what Morten would probably be expecting of higher casualties, because that's when the Russians are likely to encourage. Because I think Morten is going by the nominal rule of thumb. If you are doing an offensive, you are likely to be losing more. But the Russians are kind of creeping a little bit. So if you compare this to World War I, where the British were applying the rolling barrage or the creeping barrage, the casualty rates between them and the Germans, because when they did offensives before, their casualty rates would skyrocket by comparison to the defenders. But once that tactic was enrolled, the gap was much lower. And this is kind of where it becomes a little bit conflicting with the war here in Ukraine, because where this happens for the Russians, they don't seem able to be blasting as effectively as they did during World War I. But we should also note that they are not pushing in the same way either. They're not. Yeah, so it's I don't think the Russians are necessarily incurring a lot of because they are on defensive. They are necessarily incurring a lot of losses. But when they are moving in, I think you are probably correct. It's probably unavoidable for them to have small squads here and there that haven't been blasted, and because sure, maybe the Ukrainians are well entrenched, but we should also keep in mind they don't have like 3-meter thick bunkers every single one of them. Many of the defensive positions are, just buildings, which we all see the Russians are quite capable of leveling. So
they're quite capable. But even in cellars, if you see the pictures, you just need a little cellar, and you need a direct hit to take out. So
the Russians just fire a lot because it's not as accurate. They just fire more. Yes. So even within the Russian sources, they do discuss that even though the Russians have a tremendous production capability for the artilleries, they're still not producing enough to cover their daily expenditure of artillery shells.
Yeah, because it's incredible amount. I'm not sure what amount they spend by day, amount of artillery ammunition, but it's like crazy amounts, tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of shells.
They say that they used like 100,000 in the early days of the war, then went down to 60,000, and now they're down to 20,000 on the Russian side. Ukrainian side have never been able to fire more than 6,000-7,000.
Yeah, is that still a number that they're able to hold? Because there's been a lot of reports they've been saying for months now that they're struggling to supply them. They're running out of munitions. Germany ran out a long time ago, only 2 days of munitions. So, anyone have a count on how the Ukrainians are holding up on that by comparison? Because as far as I've understood it, throughout the war, they've had about 1/10 of the tonnage of shells that they have lost by comparison to the Russians.
Yeah, on the ammunition side, they're getting from, the Czech group have now doubled their production, so they're now producing like 300,000 artillery shells, and they're supposed to double it again to 600,000. They're getting from Pakistan, and Bulgaria has a lot of production. You have to remember that all of Eastern Europe, so when the Soviet Union was, most of the military, or at least half of the military production, was in Ukraine, Poland, Czechia, Bulgaria, and all these factories are available. So I don't think artillery shells will be a problem. If you listen to what they say on these channels, then Ukraine would have run out of artillery shells a long time ago. But I think there are planners both in NATO and in all that alliance that they have this under control. They will never run out of shell, and Russia will also never run out of shell. They just have to fire less.
Oh, Martin, that actually makes me curious to what you think about the Zelensky was over in Washington not long time ago asking for Abrams and more stuff, and he said he had a military command, I think it was his defense minister, who said that if we're going to be able to get down to Melitopol or whatever, we needed so many hundred tanks, so many whatever artillery, etc., etc., and that is what we need to win, he said, and then he wasn't provided that. Which is kind of an implicit acknowledgement that, okay, then we cannot actually win. That part, at least, not insofar as it goes now. How do you perceive that? As it, what is that? What do you think about that regarding the Abrams not being denied to the Ukrainians?
I think they're on their way. And you know the numbers: 600 tanks, so much artillery. I think he just set some high numbers and he will get less. But I think NATO and US will ramp up.
Yeah, I also think so. Because now we have the Bradleys, right? I think within this year, within 2023, we're going to see Abrams or some Leopard tanks in Ukraine. I'm quite sure because the escalation is actually picking up speed. So, yeah. It's just that I think the NATO don't want to one-off give too much because that would look so much like you're involved in the war. They just want to trickle up.
That's true. I think you have to remember that both the EU, NATO, and the US have all gone out and said we're standing with you as long as it's taken until you win. So for all these organizations and countries like Deutschland, France and UK have taken enormous hits on their industry and everything. So they won't stop supporting and the supporting will just increase. And that's what I can't see it like the Russian economy. It's the same as Spain's. The sanctions, and I can't see how they will be able to produce more weapons.
Can I just say something in between? I think that you were saying that support will never end from Western countries, but yes. I think those are the stance of politics. So politicians say that, but I think that people don't agree with this. I think that there are more and more people who don't support Ukraine anymore, because right now my family pays 3 times the bills, the gas bills that they were last year. So I don't think that this can go forever and that people will be happy, because yes, I can barely live with my pay, with my work, but yes, we were doing this for Ukraine, which is like 1,000 kilometers away and change nothing for me. So I think that more and more people will just stop supporting Ukraine, because the consequences for Western countries are not that minimal. There are Western countries have problems, so I don't think that. Bigger.
I think you're completely wrong, because EU will cease to exist as it is now if they don't keep supporting Ukraine. Because you have Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, you have Poland, you have Finland, you have Norway, you have Sweden. In these countries, 90% of the people are, 100% to support Ukraine. And I think both EU and NATO will just explode and drift apart if there would be so much. They need to stay together. And I disagree with what you're saying about that the support is increasing. It's not.
Hold on, Martin. Isn't that basically an admission that as soon as the EU and NATO start disintegrating over the war, that they can't really, the EU doesn't have an independent foreign policy either. So exactly. It will be kind of I'm not really sure if that's kind of a presupposition that necessarily applies. They can end the war now, and the EU still stands together, because there are like, for example, Hungary and other countries who are saying, no, we don't want to get involved in this.
Not other countries. Hungary is saying this, not other countries.
But Slovenia also
NATO. Let's take NATO then. Let's take NATO. They have set the bar so high that I see no way that they're going to, and the consequences for Europe is so much bigger if they let Russia win.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much bigger.
I agree, which is why a lot of talk. Yeah, that's why I thought there's a lot of talk.
Can I ask you a question? So, what is Russia's goal with this war? Do you believe
to demilitarize Ukraine?
Do you believe that the denazification and the demilitarization is the goal? Are they going to occupy a country? So you believe this?
I don't think that at the beginning of the war, I don't think that Russia's goal was to occupy Ukraine, because when we saw the first talks about the ending of war, this was in April, I think. Yes, they too. At the beginning, they were not talking about some parts of Ukraine joining Russia. They were talking about Ukraine should not join NATO. That was the first point.
Why did they annex?
Yes, because Ukraine did not. They did not agree with Russia with this. So Russia go ahead and do.
The thing about annexation was originally what they wanted was Ukraine to stop bombing Donetsk. One way is to topple the current regime, putting a more pro-Russian or whatever you can call it, which would basically, like, you know how Quebec is in Canada, which would basically give autonomy to those Donbas region. But when they saw the way Ukraine was fighting, and they knew that if they retreat from Donbas, the Donbas people saw that they were gonna face whatever when Russia leaves. So they asked Donetsk and Luhansk asked Russia, if you are gonna leave, they're gonna kill us. So they wanted to join Russia. It wasn't just Russia wanted to take those regions. It was also their will that they wanted to join. The Russian people there wanted to join Russia, and that's how their goals evolved over time. It wasn't originally their goal to take those 4 regions, but now I feel the more this thing is escalating, their goals are evolving even more, and I would not be surprised if eventually they decide to go all over to the Dnieper River at least.
I think the invasion was like Plan C or something, you know. I don't think they planned it all along, but I think Wild explained it in one of
Russians do want
videos.
Well, yes, if Donbas is definitely going to, you know, Russia definitely want to capture
100%.
The whole of Donbas. Yeah, like to
I agree with you. Sure. I agree with you regarding the Donbas area. I believe that they probably want to be a part of Russia, but the rest of the region, Zaporizhia and Kherson,
it's not.
Why? And also, why did they attack Kiev with that large force? Why?
What large force? This was not a large force, to be honest.
Okay.
The beginning of the war, this was not a large force. This was like
in the beginning it was a large force, but not now.
Yes. I mean, they attack with like what 30,000. I mean, to capture how much population
1.2 or
like,
something.
Yeah, 2 or 3 million. But I mean, I don't think that. That they could do it with 30,000.
Emotional damage for the Russians in the chat.
They thought that they were going to be greeted with open arms, and that it would be easy for them to take the capital. That's my idea. But they failed.
My idea was what they wanted was that they wanted to kill Zelensky or push him to the negotiation table. I think that was.
I don't think they want to kill him. I still don't think that Russia wants to kill Zelensky.
At that point, I think they did.
Because they know where he is. I think they're 100%. I think that Russia knows where Zelensky is.
I think Zelensky will be
at any point.
I can kind of corroborate this. So what happens is that, you know, when Zelensky went to Kherson, after, you know, they recaptured Kherson, right? You know, the Russians withdraw down to the south of Dnieper. They actually saw Zelensky already. They were asking for permission to fire, and it was rejected. So it's not that they they cannot kill Zelensky is that they refuse to kill Zelensky. So because you can't really run away from seeing Zelensky's helicopter coming to Kherson. It's just a matter of like, if you kill him, then there's no way you can negotiate. You can't negotiate.
I think they came by cars, not by helicopter.
It's a political downfall of this, right? Like, oh, they killed our Zelensky, our war hero and stuff. I think they will.
Right, you martyr him. I want to
get like a political nightmare after this one, and a diplomatical. It will also be a diplomatical failure for them as well.
I mean, yes, Zelensky is like hero of Ukraine. So if he said yes, it's time to negotiate with Russia, and he negotiate, I think that all of like Western world will agree. Yes, it's time for negotiate because he's like the biggest hero of Ukraine right now. So it's politically it's the best.
That's calling the shots, though. That's only if he's the one calling the shots. He's not the one.
Yes.
I'm sorry for interjecting here, but I wanted to, before it kind of fades away, there was a super chat here from a fellow citizen of mine, Morten, who had a specific question to Morten. What would be the consequences for Europe? And I think it was referring to like, okay, well, let's say, yeah, this one. So I think, I might be corrected if I'm wrong, but as far as I interpreted the question to Morten here is, what would actually be the consequences for Europe if Russia wins? Like, because I actually wanted to follow up before I interrupted here. Like, if you could elaborate, what would that mean? Because okay, then Russia, NATO, and EU falls apart and like it doesn't get together. But okay, so that is on paper. But if you could elaborate what that would mean to you, like, how do you see that panning out as a good thing or bad thing?
Well, I disagree with what you think the reason why Russia invaded. I think this was meant to happen anyway. I think they are just using denazification and all this.
Sure, but Russian propaganda aside,
I'm coming to that. So I think this is part of a bigger Russian plan. Like Putin has said, he wants to bring back the old empire, and I think the Eastern European countries would be, I think the Baltics would be next, actually, yeah.
But why do you believe that?
When you say empire, do you mean like
this huge multi-ethnic empire where majority of citizens are not even Russians, or maybe half of citizens are Russians and half are not? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, he may be referring to what the Americans do, which is an economic empire and not a territorial empire.
Oh, okay.
Because Russia could subjugate the neighboring smaller nations to, in a variety of ways. I think we have discussed in earlier streams. So, but I'm not sure if that's what Morten was referring to.
They couldn't. Poles, for example, would never really want to be part of Russian empire ever. So it doesn't make any sense. You would constantly have a bunch of trouble with these kind of countries in your empire, I guess.
Problem is also these countries are already in NATO, so he needs. I think the simple thing is just he needs this how is it called, this puffer state between Russia and NATO, and Ukraine will be this puffer state.
So Morten, if the NATO and EU collapses, do you think that Russia would go ahead like they did with as they were during the Russian Empire and the USSR and next to neighboring countries? Or?
And I don't think the EU will collapse. If it was just like, there will be a lot of problems. EU will not collapse, but it will be a big problem for NATO and also EU, because the stakes are so high for them that it will be geopolitical nightmare.
Could you care to specify who the stakes are high for? Like, would you say for Europe or for the United States?
For all of them. For NATO, for EU, and United States.
So in your opinion, then the United States is a prerequisite for a military alliance. Like, let me pose it differently. Like, what about, for example, as de Gaulle had back in the 60s, where France and Europe basically have their NATO thing, and then the US, which is a superpower, has its own thing, because it is a superpower after all. So because when you say the NATO collapses, that doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be any security frameworks or any arrangement. Everyone will go at each other's throat, right? Like, I'm sure that's not what you meant. So
no.
So would it necessarily be a bad thing if because I am under the impression, like, I'm not pro-Russian, like I you know, I'm also Norwegian, so I'm certainly not very keen on having Norway subordinated under Russia. But I also recognize that Norway, being such a small country that we are, that's our natural role. We have either the choice of being subordinated to a greater power, or we have a regional security alliance with peers. And our peers are actually few. There will only be Scandinavian countries, because the other ones will be so much bigger. Like the EU, we are not a peer in that coalition, right? So so taking it from that side, like if NATO under the US led NATO, because that's really what it is, and if so that is what you see. Wouldn't it be that which because that's what I perceive to be failing first? Let's say Russia wins, and there's such a bifurcation along the EU and NATO that they will split. Then so the options will be, you know, how do you actually imagine that panning out, and why would that necessarily be bad?
Well, from my perspective, it's bad. In Norway, we have, the last 50 years, we have relied, or 70 years, we have relied on this NATO, and we have, good security. I would like to explain more, but it's not in English, so it's, it's hard.
I have a question regarding this whole scenario that we're talking about. We're talking about if Russia wins. What are you guys talking about winning? Like, what if Russia just keeps those? Like,
the presupposition was that if Russia wins more or less on their terms, Morten's kind of picture it as NATO and the EU kind of dividing and falling apart. The definition of winning is.
But that presumes that Russia is going to take even more regions. What if they take 4 regions and that's about it? That's where the war stops. Would that be perceived?
No, I would have to push back on that. I don't think Russia actually has to take anything more. As long as the war continues, the tensions build up within the EU and NATO, and so Russia may not even win by their own terms, but NATO could lose by their terms, and that could be enough. Maybe not enough.
I totally disagree with that, because I don't think they will allow it. I don't.
But NATO can twist that as their own win too. They can just say that, okay, Ukraine got to keep its statehood, so they won.
Keep in mind, Ukraine is not in NATO, right? So you have always to keep this in mind. Ukraine is not in NATO, so NATO have not legal and official obligations toward Ukraine. If Ukraine is attacked, Ukraine is not in NATO. NATO don't need to rescue them, right?
Yeah, that's right.
They have chosen. I think the definition of winning was important to kind of get clarified here. Because, Martin, if you could please clarify, what do you mean by Ukraine winning, and what do you mean by Russia winning?
Ukraine gets to keep.
Well, I can't answer that question, because I agree with what is said that Zelensky decides, but like you said, when I asked you about what's the goal of Russia, and you said that demilitarization and denazification, and I can't even imagine how that looks. It's like, it's crazy thoughts. It's like a country of 40 million people, and where are all? What does this mean?
Well, a good example would be Finland after World War II. Then the Soviet Russia forced them to demilitarize at the same time as they were supposed to kick off the Germans. And I can understand it's hard to imagine here, but what we're really talking about, if Ukraine says they surrender, they will follow they will do like Norway does to NATO. They surrender their foreign autonomy, basically. They can have domestic autonomy, but the foreign policy is called by Russia. How you militarize and what systems you use decided by Russia. So it's that's sort of how demilitarization can pan out in a way.
So this denazification thing is, I think, like an euphemism for just regime change. I think they just want regime change, because how did Hitler get into power in Germany? He put like a Nazi guy, like one of his parties, in the highest how is it called? On the highest ranks. For example, if your main general is a Nazi, so every his orders is fall onto the soldiers, if you get my point. If every big company, if they are run by Nazis, so all the workers are automatically also run by Nazis, if you get my point. So I think they want to get rid of the regime, basically. So this denazification propaganda stuff, I think it's just regime change. They want like a neutral or pro-Russian regime, and not a pro-Western, anti-Russian.
Not dissimilar from what Zelensky was. Would you think that is why Zelensky responded with no negotiations while Putin is in power? Okay, it was like he said, like, okay, you guys think that you're gonna have to, we have to do a regime change for you to consider us denazified. Well, we're not negotiating before your leader goes out or something.
Okay.
Because before the regime changed, this Yanukovych, I think he was pro-Russian. So they regime changed him. They put another guy in power, and Russians said, wait, we need to regime change back to the status quo, if you get the point.
Yeah, but I don't think that. I think there was a legal revolution.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
yes.
Good.
Yes.
Oh, now it's good. Okay. I would like to tell something about the Nazi issue in the Ukraine. First of all, it's not only an issue with Ukraine; it's also with Russia. I don't know if you remember, like before 2014, it was known that Russia has the most Nazis in the world. Like it was a controversial issue. I will not say that they have the typical type of Nazis, but let's say that they are more friendly towards this kind of regime because they are more traditional in their point of views, and like the traditional point of views where racism was considered to be a normal thing. Now for the Ukraine, if anyone takes a look in what percentage of a population a country can mobilize, we can think that they can mobilize like 30%, 25%, but for sure a big percentage. And with the general mobilization, what percent of its population Ukraine managed to conscript?
Well, they're conscripting.
3%.
Well, they don't have weapons for anymore.
They cannot hear you.
They don't have weapons.
Sorry?
They don't have weapons for more. That's why they're waiting for more weapons.
Oh, sorry. Can you repeat, because I had an issue and I wasn't able to hear you.
The Ukrainian army are waiting for more weapons, so they can't put more men in the field than they have weapons for.
Okay, I'll put. I will ask something else. Do you think that Ukraine, as an like a post-Soviet country, doesn't have the weapons to mobilize 30% of its population? Even with all type of weapons, weapons. I'm not saying about modern weapons, just saying to give an AK some anti-tank weapons, and that's it. Old generation. What do you think?
That's just speculation from my side, but they're training people. They're training people every month, and they're speeding up these training programs abroad. Now, US are going to establish a new training program in Poland. They're going to train 5,000 every month from now on. And so there's a lot of upscaling, but they need weapons. You can't just give people.
Very good response.
That's about being effective. I'm not saying about being effective. I'm saying about mobilizing.
Yeah, they mobilize the whole society, basically.
Give them a gun, ammunition, and put them in outposts.
Yeah, they have done that. They have done that.
They have done that. And what percent of the population they managed to mobilize?
I don't know.
Why they are like 40 million people, and they managed to mobilize perhaps 1 million?
But they don't have weapons for more. They don't have weapons for more. They had like 2,000 tanks or something.
Speaking of
you
which,
know how many
what do you think of?
2,000 tanks? That's an enormous amount. It's
but
not a few tanks.
a million people. It's an enormous amount of people. Like 2,000 tanks for a million people. It's nothing. It's nothing. A million people is quite a lot.
Martin, can I ask you what you think of NASAMS? Norway sending the
10 million population has in its plan to mobilize 1 million.
But they don't need.
Like,
I don't say why
it's
we're
like a normal percentage to put 10% of your population on the field, and they managed to have like 2%.
But why would they put men in the field if they just have an AK? Because they need to build up a good army with mechanized units and everything. It's just like you can't just.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But they made a general mobilization, and I don't see general mobilization.
They have actually mobilized the whole country for war. So.
Yeah,
and why?
Failing to see, like,
why 2% is on the field? Why they tried to escape the country? Like, I'm not saying
because they also need to have civilians.
Russians try to escape the country. Like 1.5 million Russians have left in the first mobilization. So Russia has practically lost 2.5 million people.
1%.
Yes, that's 1% of population.
But
but 1% of what?
Yes, those 1%.
No, you can't say 1%. You have to say 1% of what? How many Russians, male, in that? How many are available? How many are not in work? How many are needed at home?
Okay.
More specifically, how many are reservists and how many are conscripts?
I think that those who left Russia, those 1.5 million people, those were the ones that hate Putin. I will say that this way. Those are the ones that want Putin to resign or something like that. But the other 99%, I think that they still support or are neutral. I spoke to a friend from Russia, and he said that those who left, that those were the ones that does not support Putin, and the ones who stayed, those are normally people who are neutral or are pro-Putin. So I think that those that the fact that those 1.5 million people left, this is a good thing for Russia, because there is no more like this percentage of population who will go on the street and do protest or something like that, because they are gone now. They are in Europe, they are in other countries. But the other thing that's really interesting is there are like 7 million Ukrainians left the country, and they're immigrants or something like that. And I think that
to Russia.
Yes, 3 million of them went to Russia.
Yeah.
Of 7 million Ukrainians that left the country, 3 million went to Russia. So if you look at it that way, I mean,
I will also add to that. My wife is also Russian, and there's a bunch of people here in Vietnam currently who are Russian. They are not running away from the war, but they are running away from the sanctions. And it has, I know a bunch of people here who, if they're called to fight for the country, they would actually go back and fight. In this term, Russians are very similar like Americans. A lot of Americans that I know, they would actually fight for their country no matter what happens. So I think it all depends on who you're talking to. It's not the people that have left the country. They will not go and fight for Russia if there's a full-scale war. So we have to consider that population too. It's not 1% of the population. It's like 0.1 maybe 0.5.
Yeah, but your counting is completely wrong, because you have to take 1% out of men who are working and who are fit to join the army. You can't count old grandmas and toddlers.
Yeah,
so why like 3% maybe? Like 3, maybe 5.
Okay. But do you think
still not a huge number.
Again? Do you think Russia will mobilize more, another mobilization?
I mean, there is a possibility.
Maybe.
There's speculations about this, I think.
What we're talking about is escalation. Can Russia escalate more? Yes, the answer is yes. They can escalate 1 million, 2 million. I can guarantee that.
Martin, now may I ask you, do you know how many mobilizations the Ukrainians have done, as opposed to the Russians' one partial mobilization?
Their mobilization is going all the time, but they had one general when the war started, women and children were allowed to leave, but no men were allowed to leave the country without special permission, I think. But they had so many volunteers that, but I can't give you the exact figures on that, but I know there's not lack of people.
Well, the reason I was asking is, how do you perceive Ukraine? Because as far as I can tell, like, sure, we can send weapons and whatever, but the fact of the matter is that the logistics are on Russia's favor. We will have to be sending shipping from all over the world and whatever, getting arrangements in between nations and allies and so forth, and the Russians can match that clearly. So, like, when we send weapons to Ukraine, you know, sure, they might mobilize, but like Captain George's question, you know, how far can they go? I'm just going to interpret that what you meant, really. But, you know, like, because at some point the Ukrainians are kind of they are going to run out before the Russians by some very obvious maths here. So, like, when you
why
take...
have you worked on that already? I just can't see that. I know the figures of Russian tanks and everything, but I'm more and more starting to disbelieve those numbers.
Well,
let's just take the artillery shells. In the beginning of the war, it was said they have 100 million artillery shells. In the beginning of the war, they were firing 100,000 shells a day. And then in the summer, 60,000, and now under 20,000.
But it's still many times more than what the Ukraine is able to fire. So, you know, they're clear. Yeah. Ukraine is clearly not going to, you know, we can support Ukraine, right? But to what end? What is the goal? So, like, this is the reason I asked, what does it mean by winning? Because as Norwegians, I can tell you, as long as this war continues, this is good business for us. It's our arms industry is benefiting, our oil and gas industry is benefiting. Like, of course, not the general population, because we are told that we have to accept these price rises for this reason. But our retail business, you know, like Reitan, he got like 26 billion crowns extra profit, which is like more than 10% in our national export. So, like, if you want to look on, you know, is it Norwegian people or the Norwegian state, that may be a discussion we can have. But for Norway, in a geopolitical sense, this war is good bang. Like, the more the Ukrainians bleed and die, and the more that the Russians do it, that's, you know, just being very cynical here. This is not my opinion. But this is the fact of the matter. Norway, from a political point of view, have absolutely no reasons to want to see this war end. You know, it's different from the US, but we have really no, you know, our population may want to, because we are not actually seeing the benefits ourselves. You have noticed the price rises, and you noticed the fuel price rises, and there's no reason for that. We are actually making big bang. We're making 60% higher in revenue this year than we did last year from oil and gas, and this is not much thanks to the Russians. So, like, when we go back to winning, right? Okay, is NATO winning? Is Norway winning? Is Ukraine winning?
Ukraine is winning. Ukraine is winning.
But how?
Like, how? Ukraine is winning what? I don't understand. The war, or Ukraine is winning nothing right now? They're losing everything.
Let me simplify it, please. Let me simplify it. Like, would you say that the Ukraine's condition for winning would be retaking Crimea, or would you say pre-war borders if they were to stop? Like, yeah, where would you define it as? Yeah, Ukraine has won.
I think Ukraine has won.
That's not up to me to decide, but I support Zelensky's narrative. They will decide when they feel that they need to.
The only way Ukraine was winning was if this war didn't happen.
The only way Russia will win if this war wouldn't happen. It's the same.
Sure.
Both is true.
May I put also my opinion on that? Okay, so Clausewitz said.
So wait. So I want to end the stream on the main channel now. So, you know, you guys who are watching on the Defense Politics Asia channel, please hop over to DPA IRL channel. The links is in the pin. I also messaged already. I also showed the message below. So please hop over. The stream will probably go on for another 2 hours, so don't miss it. Yeah, so, you know, jump over. And okay.
And don't forget to subscribe.
And then remember to subscribe. Yeah, you guys can continue now.
So I was saying that Clausewitz said that war is the continuation of politics by other means. And he also pointed out that when you win the war, this peace that you achieve should be something that remains in time. What means to remain in time? It's like imagine like Iraq. A victory for the US would have been to have a pro-American government for years. That was a short example. So here in the war in Ukraine, I think that the territories that Russia gains play secondary importance, because not only Russia but also some other countries win very important political objectives. If I will begin with Ukraine, I'll say that Ukraine won something, and Ukraine won its existence as a nation. If you remember, before the war, nobody really believed that Ukraine was a nation. Like we can even see it not on Hollywood movies, like I think it was Transporter, that the woman said, "I'm not Russian, I'm Ukrainian," and said, "What's the difference?" I said, "It's different. The heart is different." So I think this war established Ukraine in the in the world as a different nation from Russia. So I think that's the only thing that Ukraine managed to win. Now, when it comes to Russia, from the first hours of their so-called special military